Hey everyone, welcome back to Reading with Tatiana. Today I'm doing a booktube tag just in time for the holidays where you feel warm and cheery and you just want to snuggle by a fireplace. I'm doing the Pax Panic tag, which is all about your phobias and your fears. The original creator was Pax Panic, like I mentioned, and the lovely Kelly Reads a Lot tagged me. There are 7 prompts to this tag. If you have any of these phobias, I apologize in advance because I'll probably put a picture of the related phobia in addition to the book I'm recommending. So the first tag is Arachnophobia, which is a fear of spiders. I do not have this phobia, but I know a lot of people do. So this one is name a book with a ton of characters. I will stand by and praise this book for as long as I can. It just came out this year. I did a review about it a few months ago. It's called Beasts of a Little Land by Jahia Kim, and this is a multi-generational book set in South Korea, a bit of China, and a bit of Japan, but it's just so beautifully written, and there's so many characters that I believe there is actually a tree in the beginning, or maybe I drew a tree up just to like remember all the characters. This book is so great and it leads up from, I believe, 1918 up to Korea's independence in the 60s and a few years after. And it's just such a wonderful book. I really recommend it. There are a lot of characters though. The second prompt is Coulrophobia, which is a fear of clowns. I also do not have a phobia of clowns. I'm actually going to put a picture of me dressed up as a clown earlier this year. Where I live in Calgary, in Canada, there's a stampede every summer, and me and my boyfriend dressed up as rodeo clowns. And it wasn't until we got to the stampede grounds that we realized that a lot of people actually have a fear of clowns. People were avoiding eye contact with us. It was hilarious. Anyways, so Coulrophobia, fear of clowns, name a book with a ridiculous or funny scene. This one is an obvious one that was recently in My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, and it is the tapeworm scene. If you know, you know. When I read it, I was like, what did I just read? And when I watched the movie adaptation, I was like, okay, that was a lot, but they did a good job adapting it from the book. The next prompt is Acrophobia, fear of heights. I do have a healthy fear of heights, and I want to specify that when it's like really tall, like I've gone skydiving, that wasn't that scary because it was so high up that I'm so removed from the fear that I'm like, if something goes wrong, I'll probably die right away. So my fear of heights is more specific that I'm scared of like short heights. Like if you ask me to jump a fence, can't do it. I've also done Tough Mudder a few years ago where you had to like scale a fence and then come down the other side, and I was panicking for my life. I think my fear of heights is more like when it's a short enough height that you'll probably get injured but you won't die, and that's more terrifying because I have to live with the injury. Whereas if it's like really high, like skydiving, it's not scary because I'll be dead anyways. So for this prompt, I pick. It is name a book that changed your view. So for me, this one is a nonfiction I read last year. It was a top 10 book for me. It's called Understanding Power, The Indispensable Chomsky by Noam Chomsky. So this book is a little different because it is a collection of lectures that he's done throughout his career. And it's just a really great book because it made me change, especially in 2020, 2021. I mean, even in the last 5, 7 years, I feel with social media and also social justice issues, they're so important, but I feel it's created a divide between the left and the right, especially in America. But because in America, it's such a big country and the media is so powerful, it bleeds a lot into Canada, and I find that there's a huge divide. And this book, one point that really drove home with me is that back in the 80s or even 70s, like you and your neighbor could share and give each other a cup of sugar, but maybe don't have the same views on abortion rights, or maybe not the same views on immigration policies, and you could still respect each other. And that really changed my point of view because now I find that the world is, if there's one thing that we disagree on, I'm just going to assume everything else about you, and I'm going to not be your friend nor respect you. And I really disagree with that. I think there's room to respect each other. You don't have to be friends. You don't have to be I don't know, it's just interesting, and that this book really changed my view of that. So yeah, let me know what you think of that too. Like if someone doesn't support abortion rights, would you not be friends with them? Because I'm curious. I am pro-choice, and I used to be if you're pro anti-abortion, then I can't even be your friend. But now I really don't think that, because there's so many other things we can agree on, and I don't know. It's just interesting thing to think about for me. The next one is Trypophobia, which is a fear of holes. Name a book with a plot hole. So I'm not just picking one book here. I'm picking this author's all her books, and I'm sorry for people who are a huge fan of her. She just hasn't clicked with me, and I'm going to give her one more attempt because Eliza's Bookshelf recommended All Your Perfects, and I will read it because she said that one's quite good. But for me, the author is Colleen Hoover. When I read her books, I just find the motivation for the characters make no sense to me. Like, I'm like, how did that happen? How did that occur? Like, I felt very forced, and this occurred for all her books for me. It happened in, I think, Reminders of Him. I'm like, does it make sense that the protagonist just made out with the stranger at the bar in the heat of the moment, and like the deceased boyfriend never showed his best friend a picture of the girlfriend? I know they're dating for a short time, but it's just so unbelievable. And also in Faraday, like why would she live in the house? I don't know. And they would fall in love and have that connection. It just doesn't make sense to me, and Colleen Hoover does not slap with me. The next one is Mysophobia, a fear of germs. Name a book with the best symptom/infection. So in this book I read recently, it was a 5 out of 5 read, and there is no blatant visual symptoms or infection, but this book kind of talks about like the infection of the mind in a post-apocalyptic world. So this one is The Row by Carmack McCarthy. There is a book, obviously, and also a movie adaptation if you want to watch it. I think both are done really well. And so basically this book, we meet a man and we presume his son in a post-apocalyptic world. And in this book, you really see how, we don't know how long it has been going on for, but the world is pretty bland. Like, there's not a lot going on. They meet people here and there, and you just see the man's interaction and reaction to other humans, and how just living for a long time in a post-apocalyptic world, how it infects your mind and how you deal with interaction with humans. So this book was really great. It's one of those books that when I read it, it was just okay, but the more I thought about it after, it just like was in my mind. It made me really think about how I would react in a post-apocalyptic world. I also really enjoyed this book because unlike other post-apocalyptic books, there's no glorification or like, oh, we're heroes and we're gonna survive. It was very like, we are just surviving barely, and I felt it's very realistic portrayal of how I would live in this type of world. The second last prompt is Astraphobia, the fear of lightning or thunder, and name a book that hit you hard. So this book, I think I read at the end of last year or beginning of this year. It's called Against the Loveless World by Susan Abuawa, and I really, really recommend this book. Basically, the book starts with a protagonist who is in an Israeli prison, and she recounts how she got there. She's Palestinian, and basically this book was just so beautiful and so tragic. And it talks about her upbringing and how she became a sex worker, how she viewed America as evil because of the way America attacked Palestine, and just this whole part of the world about the war in Iraq, and how there's really two sides to every story. And I know good guys are bad guys, but people just fighting and protecting their home country and their homeland. And this book, wow, like I would definitely read it again because it just hit me hard. You gotta read it. It's a 5 out of 5. And the last prompt is Enochlophobia, a fear of crowds. Name a book with a place or a group of people you hated. So this book is a 1 out of 5 star read for me. I'd probably give it a 0 if I could on Goodreads. And I came across this book because it was just sitting in my boyfriend's parents' basement while we were staying with them, so I just read it. I knew there's also movie adaptation, so I wanted to give it a try because I love the actor in it. I can't think of his name right now, but the actor who wrote Shaun of the Dead and Run Fat Boy Run, Simon Pegg. So I love him, and so I really wanted to read this book because he did movie adaptation, but this book was just awful. So I'm doing a lot of build up, but the reveal is How to Lose Friends and Alien People by Toby Young. Basically, this book just talks about, I believe he was a British guy who moved to New York to kind of get big with the journalists and the writing community, and he was just a asshole and just so conceited, and this book had no redemption. I think it was supposed to be a memoir of his experience, but I was just not buying it. It was an awful read. Please do not read this book. I haven't seen the movie yet because I'm just wary of watching the movie just because the book was so bad, but I do love Simon Pegg, so maybe I'll give it a try. Now I will take 3 people. I'm just going to go with the last 3 people I interacted with on my YouTube notifications. I apologize if you've done this tag. I did not check if you have. So I'm taking Tangible Reads, who is my co-host for the Holiday Hackathon, and also Stephanie Thoughts, and also Chris Reviews. If you want to do this tag, I would love to see it, and thank you for watching it until the end. Bye!